All right, welcome to the very first episode of the Data Dive into the Cookieless Future podcast, or so we're temporarily calling it now. More on that in a second, but for now, I'm Jessie Lezak, head of marketing at BDEX, and this is Joshua Morgan, content marketer extraordinaire, and of course, David Finkelstein, BDEX's own superhero, aka co-founder and CEO. David is an internet pioneer and tech entrepreneur with over 28 years of internet business experience. He founded National Internet Source, Inc. in 1994, sold to U.S. Cable in 2000, co-founder of Dynaprice, Inc. in 1999, co-founder of Contextuads in 2004, founded Triple Jack, LLC in 2006, and then co-founded BDEX, of course, in 2014. So David is the star of the show. David, could you walk the listeners through the story of how you and how BDEX came to be?
Wow, Jesse, thank you for the introduction, and I'm not sure what I can add to that. So how BDEX came to be,
Well, and you as a person, who's David, and how did you start all those businesses and then sell them and then create BDEX?
I was literally a kid 6 months out of college when I started the ISP business. It was just kind of crazy, and I just did it on a whim. Just actually, it was really just because I wanted access to the internet. I had access to the internet in college, got out of college, and the only thing that existed was AOL. We're talking 28 years ago.
Dial up.
Yeah, it
I
was
love that.
It was all
That's how I
that,
got
and
started, was in AOL chat rooms.
yeah.
Cutie Peach
Yeah,
here, y'all coming at you.
same here. And I was waiting tables at the time, and we would have AOL chat room groups, reserved, just hundreds of them at a time. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I got out of college and used more of the internet than just, that what was available on AOL. So I was talking to actually my boss at the time. I was working for some IT company, and I said, hey, we need like real access to the internet, not just AOL. And so he said, all right, well, we can do that. Why don't we do it ourselves? And so we left that company and started our own ISP, literally out of a tiny room. Out of my parents had a building, that a small building in New Jersey that they used as an office, and we took one little room and put a whole bunch of computer equipment in there and started this company. It was kind of
Could you
crazy.
get internet in there?
Yeah, so that's the thing. We back then, get this, we bought access to the internet through, I'm trying to think, I think it was Verizon, and we bought a 56K line access into the internet. Okay, and we put a bunch of modems off of that, the old US robotics modems. And that was it. Like, we just hooked up a bunch of phone lines and started putting ads out and said, hey, now you can dial up and connect to the real internet, not just AOL, everything else that existed out there. And that was before the web. And there was
Was your previous employer your first customer, or who were your first customers?
I don't even remember if they became a customer or not, but we started out just doing dial-up. So initially it was just consumers and just people,
Okay, consumers.
that wanted access to more. And back then it was like Usenet news groups and other types of chat and transferring files and email and things like that. And the web started up very, pretty much around that time. With like the early Mosaic browser and stuff like that. But then we soon sort of turned to businesses, and we realized that businesses could really gain a lot of power from using the internet. So we started promoting it to businesses, and we became a B2B internet service provider. And 6 years later, our customers ranged from Sony to I don't know, all kinds of businesses that were just really using it primarily for email, sometimes transferring files. And then towards the end of when we sold it in 2000, there was, we were building websites and things like that. It started to get a little more, a little bit of e-commerce started, back then, but most websites were more informational. And so, but that, that's early on. That was how we started. That's how I started in the whole internet business and sold that, and obviously got into, other areas of business during that time. I helped start another company, Dynapraise, and then Triple Jack, but ContextuAds was really what led us to get into BDEX and get into the data business. And so,
but really quick, what was Triple Jack, or what is Triple Jack? Is it still existing?
Triple Jack still exists today. It is a free poker website, and that was really just a hobby kind of thing. I got into playing some poker, and I didn't want to play for money because I was new to the game. So I started looking for free websites, and I didn't like the fact that like the big sites like PokerStars and stuff like that were trying to get you to, to play for money. So I was looking for a free site that was only free, and I found this little site called Triple Jack, and it was kind of cool because it was more social, and it was like you could play the game, and then if somebody beat you in a hand, you could throw a pie in their face, or you could drop a bomb on them, and their little avatar would explode. And so I was like, this is kind of fun. But it was just this. It was a small site, and they had a small following. And I reached out to the guys that started it, and asked them, I'm like, what are you doing with this? And they said nothing really. And so we kind of worked together, and I said, maybe I can help kind of turn this into a business. And so we did. We turned it into a business. It's still kind of a hobby business, but it's fun. And the little known fact is that 1 year, as I think that was started in 2006, so I think it was 2008. I actually went and played in the World Series of Poker and represented Triple Jack. So I have a Triple Jack poker jersey and and all that stuff. So it was kind of fun. But I did get busted out in the first day, like number 600 or something. So, but it was still a fun experience to see thousands and thousands of people playing poker all at the same time. It was pretty fun.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about. So Triple Jack.
That's amazing. Actually. David, what other games do you really enjoy playing?
I really don't. I'm not really, I'm not really into any video games or anything like that. Poker is really my thing. I used to have a home game, played with friends once a month. That turned into an online game during COVID. So we now play online. Actually, we play once a week now online, but it's still a home game just with a bunch of friends. But that's kind of like the only game I really play. Sports wise, I was always into hockey. I'm a big hockey fan, but I was never a good enough skater to play hockey.
What's your favorite team? Who do you usually root for?
So I grew up a really diehard New York Rangers fan, and I was lucky enough to see them win the Cup in '94, and lucky enough to actually see the Stanley Cup and get some time pictures with it and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun. But now living in Florida, I became a Florida Panthers fan, which was difficult for many years, but this year it's been fun. So now they're doing very well. So it's exciting.
Good questions, Josh.
Well, I don't know. Growing up in Oklahoma, we have absolutely no hockey here. So I'm gonna pick David's brain to get a better understanding of hockey. So I just never see hockey on TV. So there's not I don't get a lot of exposure to the sport. But I went ice skating one time and in my late 30s, and it was not a pretty sight. So I have the utmost respect for those athletes.
Yeah, I have to say that's one of the reasons why I enjoy hockey so much, because I was never a great skater, and just the fact that they can play the sport on skates, on ice, and be, bumping and grinding, hitting each other, knocking into each other and staying on their feet. It always impressed me, even as a kid. I was like, this is a crazy sport. How could they do this on ice? So it's amazing to watch the finesse and skill with a lot of these players.
That's awesome. Yes, my husband is a Blackhawks fan. So he lived in Chicago for a long time and still tries to find it on TV, which is always a struggle. So we end up at like B-dubs or something like that. But anyway, David, so you're the star of the show, so how did you start BDEX? How did we get to now?
Yeah, so after selling the company to the ISP business to US Cable, I ended up partnering up with my employee number one, Michael Aronov, and we basically started a contextual advertising platform called Contexturads, and we ran that for about 10 years. And I think that's really what led us into the data industry, because that business was about driving advertising based on contextual and behavioral data. And so we ultimately ended up realizing the real value and what really drives successful performance and return for advertisers is the data. And so that's how we ended up in the data business with BDEX. And our ultimate goal was to be able to build a platform that would help advertisers be more successful and drive better performance through their advertising using data.
That's awesome. We lost you, Josh. You're back now. Was it the internet?
Welcome.
My I don't know if it was the modem or whatever it
Okay,
was.
good. I was like, I hope
Yeah.
he didn't leave because I said that David's the star of the show.
No, it was no, because he said, it's hockey. I got triggered.
Yeah. He's like, hockey, what?
No, I don't know what happened. We had a little surge there for a second. So
Okay.
good old
Well, glad it was
inefficient
that.
power grids, yeah.
Well, thanks, David. That was a really good story. And Josh, you want to tell the audience about your personal story a little bit, being a transitioning teacher? Also, if you don't mind, please share with the listeners about the podcast you started as well and what you learned about marketing data in yourself since starting at BDEX.
I have said that even if I decided to stay into teaching, the what I've learned about myself through this journey of career research and looking at what's out there and really understanding what makes me thrive, what makes me happy, has been really life changing. And not only that, but through the connections of the friends I've made have been just like I'm a different person than when I first started, which is kind of crazy to say, being in my 40s, that in such a short amount of time that, the people that you're around can have such a profound effect on, who you are, and the way that you think. So, really, this is my 16th year teaching, and for a few years now, I've thought that maybe I just needed a new district or a new school. And after changing districts 3 times, it's kind of like if you keep getting married and divorced. At the end of the day, you have to assume that maybe the problem is yourself. And so I realized that I just wanted to do something a little bit different, on a bigger stage. And so this took me to LinkedIn, where I had to figure out even what I wanted to do, because my whole identity was wrapped up as a teacher. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. When you introduce yourself to somebody, you usually say, "Hi, my name is Josh, and I'm a teacher." And so we kind of wrap up our whole identity into like our career, what we do. And so I had to figure out who I was in this journey, which has been just kind of crazy. So, long story short, after, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that, maybe I want to do this, my heart started setting on marketing. But within marketing, there's like 900 different areas. So I decided, rather than assuming that I would enjoy it, let me get an internship and see if it's something that I really want to do. Best case scenario is I go into marketing. Worst case scenario is, I learn a bunch of new stuff, and I realize that it's not for me. So it's really kind of a win-win at the end of the day. So after reaching out, Jesse said, "Well, why don't you do some freelance stuff, and we'll go from there." And so I did some freelance projects, and then I was offered the internship at BDEX, and it's been an incredible experience because it was, number one, it's totally out of my wheelhouse. I had no clue what I was doing when I was started. So the amount of learning and the knowledge and just the patience people have with you as you make mistakes and get better has been outstanding. So in the process of this, I started I told the students that we were going to do a careers research project, and the students they just really had no clue what was out there besides, oh, I can go to college and be like an architect, an engineer, a doctor. But they had no clue of all these careers such as sales and recruiting and marketing and UX design. And so I realized that they were in the same boat that I was not too long ago. And I kind of had this aha moment where I knew people that had this knowledge, and I had people that wanted the knowledge, and I could facilitate that exchange of knowledge. And so I got I got on LinkedIn and I said, and it was particularly geared towards the girls that I teach, because a lot of the boys were they kind of understood the path they wanted to go. They knew that they wanted to go medical. They knew that they wanted to go engineering. They kind of knew, so they kind of had an understanding. The girls, though, quite a few of them said, well, they were just going to go to nursing school so they could make decent money. And nursing is, and God bless our nurses because they are amazing people. But nursing is one of those careers where if you don't go into nursing because you want to, you're going to be unhappy, you're going to get burned out, and the patients won't get the care that they deserve and they need. So I got on LinkedIn and I just said, for the women that are in leadership, I would love to interview you, kind of your career path, understand your day to day, what salaries look like. These are the questions that the students wanted me to ask. And I had this huge outpouring of women in leadership and business owners and CEOs and VPs and just like anybody and everybody, all sorts of different careers said we would love to be a part of this. So I started interviewing, and so it's been a video stream, and so I'm stripping it down into a podcast now so that it can be more accessible. And since then, several districts have reached out and would like access to this. So I've been having a blast just interviewing a lot of like women in leadership in like, man, software engineering to recruiting to different areas of marketing to product management, project management, and it's just been kind of an amazing endeavor.
You've
That's
been an
awesome, Josh.
inspiration, and I'm sorry that I keep putting off an interview. He's asked me several times, and every time I'm like, can we just do it another time? So we'll do it one of these days, I promise.
No, it's fine. And through this, it's like I think one of the hardest part is just to kind of stay the course, because there are a lot of male allies for the women that I would love to interview, and it's made me to where I just want to interview anybody and everybody I can. But you kind of want to stay true to the genre you started, because and that's why I like what we're doing right here, because I get a chance to talk to David, I get a chance to talk to you, I get a chance to talk to a lot of different guests that's a little bit different. And so yeah, it's I'm I'm having fun. And I think that's the main thing, is I am having fun.
That is amazing. Well, I am so glad you're here. So Josh, do you want to take it from here? I know you had something you wanted to bring up.
Yes. So one of the things that we have to have a title for our series. And so, David, I think, you being the leader of the ship, essentially, I think we need to get like your feedback on what you feel kind of best represents, the company and the podcast and the information that will be dispersed in this. And so, so here are some things that we came up with, such as data dive into the cookieless future. And I think, and I like that one a lot because it's kind of playful with the cookieless and, into the future, because we know that, and we'll kind of get into data privacy a little bit later. But, the cookies, are going away. And so, we looked at that one, data dive with David, audience IQ, because, at the end of the day, BDEX represents really kind of understanding who your audience is and being able to target that advertising, that marketing, cookieless data decisions, first party data today, customer data today, because it's all about the customers. And this is an interesting one because we all know that if you don't have customers, you don't have a business, and that's they're the heart of your revenue. Yeah. Then understanding today's audience, cookies and data, which is kind of cool, kind of playful, and deconstructing marketing data. So would love to get your thoughts on kind of those titles.
Yeah, it's a tough decision because we want to talk about so much, right?
Right.
I mean, I added the last one, the deconstructing marketing data, because it's like, I feel like there's everything that you listed above is like a piece of that, right? I mean, right. Whether you're talking about cookieless, you're talking about first party data, you're talking about customer data. I think each, time we sit down and talk, we're going to be talking about something else, but it all comes down to data that is used for marketing.
That is so good.
Are you, by chance, are you a Star Wars fan?
I am. I'm not a super fan, but yes, I'm a Star Wars fan.
The deconstructing marketing data kind of gave me the Empire kind of Star Wars feel to it, which I was like, I feel kind of powerful just saying this.
Yeah, maybe can you get us a license to the Star Wars theme to open it up with? Can we work that out? I think that would really help. And I want the introduction to be in words that go up like that, in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Jesse will get right on that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
My mind went to Deconstructionism. So I have a master's in sociology. So it's a philosophical movement of theory. It basically questions traditional assumptions and certainty about identity and truth. So I kind of feel like it's perfect. But I do like cookies and data, and that was my favorite.
It's kind of like, cookies and data. It's kind of like, I feel like if we're going to go with that theme, like we have to actually be eating cookies and milk or something while we're talking about it. Right?
Probably.
I mean, it wouldn't be such a bad idea.
But then once cookies goes away, we have to change it, and so
it could be like a gift
else.
we send all of our guests. Like we send them some cookies for joining us.
Well, I think after cookies, there's going to be something else that comes out, and it's going to be like brownies or biscuits or something. So we'll just change the
browser brownies.
Yeah, we could have the dessert companies sponsor the show. And just
there we go. Now you're thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we can get feedback from the listeners or viewers of this podcast to help us figure it out. But I think we're close, with some of these things that we're talking about here. Whether it's deconstructing data, whether we stick with cookies and data as the theme. I think that there's a lot of other things that we need to talk about that's outside of cookies. But, maybe we just figure that out as we go.
We can still narrow it down a little bit. Don't you think? We've got like 9 here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I like deconstructing marketing data because it's my own idea, because people tend to like their own ideas more than anything else.
I like your idea. It's a good idea.
but
Josh's mind went to Star Wars and mine went to sociology, so I think it's good.
Well, and that's a great point, because when you're creating a title, you kind of want somebody to have a visual of it. If the title's kind of meh, kind of boring, people are going to pass by. So, and that's why, like, you can look at like the kind of the playfulness of cookies and data, or you can look at kind of the powerfulness of deconstructing marketing data. And both of those would, especially the deconstructing, because that word deconstructing is so, like, it makes you stop, like you think about it. So I think it's a powerful name, and I like it also.
Yeah, and if it's too long for you, we can always make it Deconstructing Data, you know, instead of marketing data.
Absolutely.
But you know, I'm open. So you guys are the marketers.
So I think
I'm merely an entrepreneur. Like, what do I know about marketing? So
Well,
clearly you know
I
something
wouldn't.
if you've, you know, grown
Yeah.
and sold a couple businesses.
got this
Yeah,
far, I
I
guess.
wouldn't say merely, because anybody that can build a business, sell a business, build another business. I mean, there's definitely something to be said there, because there are, and one of the things that really has been interesting to talk about through my own podcast is that we tend to glamorize business ownership, and we see the successful people in business, and we go, oh, that looks easy. I could start a business too. But if we look at the number of failed businesses out there, there is definitely something to said about those that can keep a business and succeed. And I mean, David, talk about the award that BDEX just received.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think of entrepreneurs as, we're just strange people that for some reason want to work, 80 hours a week for, for less pay. But because we're not good at working for other people. I learned that very early on in my career. I'm not really good at working for someone else. I don't know why. But I do see myself as sort of a visionary, and every sort of personality test that I've taken has said that about me. And so I think entrepreneurs are just people that have sort of a skill set, right? Just like any other job, and that skill set, evolves around being able to sort of not only sort of picture the future that they're creating, but be able to figure out how to get there, you know. And but my experience in being successful has always been about uh, doing what I need to do to just get things off the ground, and then finding people that know more about each of the aspects of the business than me and bringing them in, and that, that's why I have you guys on my team. That's why I brought Jesse on my team. It's just, everyone on my team is there because they know more about something than me. Their skill set obviously is something I don't have, and that's why I need them on my team. And so, I might not be an employee, but I'm just another person, that has a skill set, and my skill set, hopefully complements others. And that's how we all, become successful together.
And
Well,
you
and
sell.
the
You do
head
direct sales,
coach.
right, David?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to think of. I mean, I don't think I'm the best salesperson, to be honest with you. Certainly my personality test says I'm not, because a good salesperson knows how to take rejection. I'm not good at taking rejection. Like,
Oh,
if I lose an opportunity, it hurts me. It really hurts me, and I don't bounce back very well. But I do what I have to do. And that's kind of. When I take the personality test that I use, Culture Index, they have sort of a different type of description for each of the different personalities. And while mine is a philosopher, I'm also known as a chameleon, as what the guy that we hired to run the personality test. And basically, he said, that makes me very sort of malleable, in the sense that I can change roles pretty easily to do whatever I need to do at any given moment. Doesn't make me great at any one of those roles, but at least I can get through sales if I have
got it. So, all right. Well, I'm thinking in terms of the title, at least, we can probably get rid of audience IQ and understand your consumer audience, only because I feel like it's super long. It's the longest
Yeah.
of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that takes us down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll leave it to the listeners otherwise. So that's cookies and data, data dive into the cookieless future, data dive with David, cookieless data decisions, first party data today, customer data today, understanding today's audience, and deconstructing marketing data, which I think is probably my new favorite. I really liked, since you're a philosopher, I really liked learning about deconstructionism. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, very cool.
Hey, David, what was the? Because I noticed on LinkedIn that, and I posted about it too. But what was the award that BDEX got?
Oh, you're gonna make us talk about it. Okay, you make us gloat. So that's Inc. magazine. Besides doing the Inc. 5000 annual list of fastest growing companies, which we've made 2 years in a row, they also do a regional. They used to break it down by states, and now they do it by regions. And so we made the Inc. magazine regional list of fastest growing companies for the Southeast region. So listed as number 104. So it's always nice to get that kind of recognition, to be just recognized for what we're doing, and the successes that our team has had. So congratulations to our team as a whole, because it takes everybody to make that happen.
There's a great, efficient team here at BDEX. I will say that. And so we got through that part. So David, since you're the star of the show, what do you think this podcast should offer listeners from a high level?
Well, I mean, I want to be able to educate and talk about data, obviously, how that's applied to marketing, advertising, how the industry changes that are going on, that are always going on constantly, how we move and adapt to those changes, and obviously, there'll be some privacy discussions and things like that we'll need to talk about as well, and what that means to both the consumer and to marketers and brands, when it comes to making sure they're in compliance as well. So I think that there's a lot to cover there.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's so much. That was one thing that that interested me in BDEX, was the fact that I was a little bit confused of what was happening with the internet. This was prior to last June's announcement that they were going to delay cookie deprecation, but I was like, I use third-party cookies to help businesses grow, and so what am I going to do? And BDEX had the solution, so it really intrigued me because I wanted to learn that solution.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, and that's important for marketers everywhere to understand and to learn how to adapt to these changes.
Absolutely. And there's so many changes happening all the time. All right. So Josh.
So, one thing that I was not even aware of before coming to BDEX is kind of this war against third-party cookies and kind of the whole data privacy. And so, David, like, if you could say kind of a main thing that you would like to educate our audience about as far as data privacy goes. And, I notice I say data, you guys say data, so I apologize for that. But as far as data privacy goes, what is one thing that you would really want to educate the audience about with this podcast?
Great question. I mean, I think that it's important when you're talking about data privacy, and when if you have concerns about data privacy, that it really comes down to the relationship with your relationship with whomever is collecting that data. Okay, so we all know there are some companies out there, Facebook/Meta, and others that have had some issues with data privacy. They're not the only ones. There's a lot of others that don't hear about because they're not as big and they're not in the news as much. But ultimately, it comes down to when a company is collecting data about you, and they're everywhere you go, every website you go to now, every app you go to, there's a message that pops up and says, "Here's what we're collecting," and they're trying to provide some level of transparency, but it's really just legal jargon, right? Has anybody ever read those? Probably not, besides lawyers. And so it's important for the consumer to understand that they're just clicking on that, and that's fine. That's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. But who's on the other side of that click, right? And so your data is being collected, it's being shared, and if you don't care, that's great. A lot of people don't care. I think that there's actually more people that don't care than do care, and but once the government gets involved, they want to put regulations in place. So those regulations exist. But ultimately, it all comes down to who is collecting that data and making sure that you know and you trust who's collecting that data. If you're concerned, then that's the one thing that you need to be concerned with. Who's on the other side of that click, and do you trust that company?
Right. Yeah, I think I went on 2 websites today, and that green tab pops up about what they're collecting, and I was just like, okay. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. But
Yeah.
I know also that identity resolution is kind of a big talk right now. So as far as one of the things that we will be discussing this podcast is identity resolution. So like right now, what would you say is we would want to educate our audience about as in regards to identity resolution?
Well, I mean, obviously what it is, what it means, I think is the most important thing. And identity resolution as a whole is really just a company's ability to identify you as a consumer across your different touch points. So whether that be, from your email address to your name and postal to your mobile ID on your phone to your computer, just being able to resolve that it's the same person. Like Josh, you have multiple devices, and if I can't resolve each of those devices to you, then how do I know I'm reaching you, right? So that's ultimately what it means. But I think that what people need to understand is that if they want the experience of brands to be able to reach them across wherever they are, the brands that they know and they trust, then that identity resolution has to happen. And years ago when that didn't exist, advertising was like not targeted anyway, and you'd see a lot of generic ads for anything from weight loss to insurance, and these things would have meaning, have no meaning to you. Today, you notice that if you search for something online on one device, you can go on another device and see something very similar. And it's like, to me, that's exciting because I want to see ads. I wish TV could do this. I want to see ads that are related to things that I'm interested. I haven't been to a McDonald's in 25 years probably, yet I have to watch a McDonald's ad every day on my TV. If I turn that thing on, you're going to see a McDonald's ad. I will not be going there. So they're losing out on value advertising to me, and I'm losing out on the experience of actually seeing things I care about, right? And so to me, identity resolution can be a great thing, right? And that's what I think people need to understand is that, done right, it can be, it can provide a much more, valuable experience, through your online journey.
I like it. The other day I received a a mailer for women's ski gear, and I'm not a woman, and I've never been skiing. It was snow skiing. I love water skiing, but I was like, this is so not related to me. How much did they spend printing all this up and sending it out? So one other thing that kind of we'll be covering through this podcast is machine learning, and that kind of gives us the heebie-jeebies when we think of like the Terminator and other shows like that movie. But Jesse, for a second, talk about machine learning and kind of what we would want the audience to know about machine learning.
Well, I think David should talk about it, but I would just say one of the things that I'm constantly talking about on podcasts is more about building your data culture and your data strategy internally. And machine learning is, something industry, all industries are using machine learning in some capacity, but it can be used in marketing and advertising as well to create custom audiences. So when your team is, you know, collecting data in a way that helps you build quality data, then you're going to be able to build better custom audiences and use that data with machine learning to better target your audience and go find other customers like your own ideal customer. But David, tell us about how did BDEX even get into machine learning and some of the value you've seen it offer existing customers?
Well, I'd say that, we got into it simply because we were looking at the fact that, one, there is such a large volume of data in our platform across 5,000 different categories of data about pretty much every consumer in the US. And we said, this is, obviously interesting, but what we found, the sort of saw as the future trend, again, going back to sort of maybe my visionary sort of characteristic, is that with the changes going on with respect to data privacy and cookies, that third-party data may get more difficult to leverage for brands. Not that it was great to begin with, because there's so much bad data in that third-party data that, I think performance really lacked anyway. But we saw an opportunity for brands to really finally sort of figure out how to leverage their first-party data. That's the data that's most valuable, right? And this is the data you're collecting about your existing customers. It's stuff is valid. And so if you could harness that first-party data about your existing customers and use that in a way to find more customers that are just like those customers, well, that sounds pretty powerful, right? And so that's what we sort of aimed to do. Is we said, how do we do that? How do we use machine learning to build a modeling technology that will leverage all the data in our platform to do that really effectively? And that's kind of what led us to do it.
So, and I think that almost gets into data for marketing. What else, because, we'll be covering a lot of different areas, but, one area that we will be covering is that whole data for marketing. So what else could you say how we're using data for marketing purposes?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, obviously we're using it in, building audiences, custom audiences, I'd say, is that it's sort of another method. Obviously we talked about machine learning, identity resolution, but building custom audiences, machine learning is one way to do that. But there's a lot of other ways to do it. There's a lot of other, third-party data that can be leveraged sometimes in conjunction with that first-party data to build a very customized audience for targeting. That data can be used, whether, any of the above data that we talked about could be used in a number of different marketing, methodologies, whether you're talking about email marketing, by using it to import into your CRM, or whether you're talking about, marketing on LinkedIn, to build audiences to target there. CTV advertising, we're working with TiVo to do that, to find audiences that are no longer watching linear, regular TV. And how else can they be reached? They can be reached through CTV because they're using some other, Roku or some other CTV platform. And so, there's, I don't even know, I probably missed a few other ways, but, that's some of the things that we're doing in particular to help companies use data effectively in their marketing campaigns and techniques.
I think that's like beautifully put at that right there, because that is such a wide open topic that will like give us many episodes to cover.
Absolutely.
And so speaking of which, when you think of guests that will be coming on our podcast here, what types of guests would you see that we will be speaking with?
I look forward to inviting a lot of other industry leaders across not data and marketing companies that we work with, that we're partnered with. 100, we have 100 different data partnerships, so there's a lot of potential people from each of those data companies that would be able to provide some amazing insights as well. As well as I'd really like to see us bring in some of our customers as well. I think those customers can share some really interesting stories about their successes that will inspire people to to have their own successes as well.
That's really awesome. And I also think that some of the most successful people I know work for BDEX. So that's our lowest hanging fruit in terms of having some really great content to share. So, David, what would you think about us interviewing everyone who works for BDEX, which is like, what, all 10 of us?
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love that.
So it gets us through our first season.
Yeah, let's do that. That's awesome. I'd love to bring the whole team on. I think that everyone will have some different perspectives, from the engineers, to, all the way to sales. I think everybody has a different angle to share that I think will, add a whole other sort of point of view to this podcast. And that would be great.
100%. Well, in closing, we would love to get input from listeners about what you would like to learn about in regards to data, I guess, deconstructing marketing data. What questions do you have that you want us to answer in our upcoming series that will focus on data trends in advertising and marketing around identity, machine learning, data privacy, and I won't say data as a service, I'll say data in marketing. So share your qualitative data with us and let us know what you think. And if you want to be a guest on our podcast and you're one of our partners, we would love to hear from you. So just reach out to, I'll let Josh share that information. So Josh, how can listeners reach out to us?
Yeah, so please share any and all feedback in the comments whenever you're listening. You can send that over to info@bdex.com. That's info@bdex.com.
That sounds great. Or they could just reach out to David, probably because they all know you. Just kidding. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining for this podcast. Look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you both. This has been great.
It's been awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to doing more. Thank you.
Absolutely.